Nick Kyrgios strode. Okay, first, onto the world tennis stage against Rafael Nadal 5 years ago, brimming with the unaccountable confidence of youth. When the 19-year-old Australian beat the Spanish Hall of Famer in the fourth round at Wimbledon in 2014, the sport seemed to have found a new star, and the ATP a new future. That day it was the rookie, rather than the legend, who stood taller on the points that mattered most. Almost as stunning to the media, though, was what happened in the interview room afterward. Asked to declare his conqueror the next big thing in tennis, the legend demurred. "Do you get the sense from that match that he's a player you'll be meeting time and time again in the future, perhaps in the later stages of competition?" a reporter asked Nadal. The answer had to be yes, right? "Not according to Rafa. I don't know," he said instead. "We have to see if I am able to keep playing in the latest round in the future. I will see if he is able to keep playing in the latest rounds in the future. The sport is a mental part a lot of times. He has things, positive things, to be able to be a good player. But at the end, everything is a little bit easier when you are arriving. You can do whatever and will be positive, and everybody will see just the good things on you." This was a very different reaction from the one that Nadal had after his first meeting with Kenny Shikori a few years earlier, and reporters noticed. "When you played a young player, Kenny Shikori, I think you said he had top 10 potential," one of them followed up. "I'm not hearing that today with Kyrgios." Nadal answered that he hadn't seen enough of Kyrgios to say for sure, and that, after all, the top 10 was a pretty exclusive club. As Rafa put it, in his own incontrovertible way, "The thing is, top 10 is only 10, so it's difficult to be in the top 10. So far, Rafa has yet to be proven wrong." Kyrgios' career high ranking is number 13, and he started this week at no. 72 after reaching the quarter-finals at Wimbledon in 2014. He's reached just one more Grand Slam quarter, at the Australian Open the following year. Injuries and a well-documented ambivalence toward the sport have kept Kyrgios from fulfilling his obvious potential. Nadal may have foreseen all of that in 2014. It's also possible that he was reluctant to sing Kyrgios' praises because A, the kid had just knocked him out of Wimbledon, and B, he rubbed him the wrong way. Which would hardly be surprising, because Nadal and Kyrgios are about as diametrically opposed temperamentally, stylistically, philosophically, as two people who play the sport can get. Nadal tries to control the tempo of match by slowing it down. Kyrgios tries to control the tempo by speeding it up. Nadal is one of the sport's most driven and intense competitors, who sweats the details and digs as deeply as he can to win every match, and virtually every point. All athletes are competitive, but few have dramatized their passion for the fight with Nadal's gusto. As for Kyrgios, you never know what level of interest you're going to get from set to set and match to match. At times, as he tosses and serves, jaws with fans, and stands flat-footed to hit ground strokes, he seems bent on subverting the whole idea of competition. He'll always draw a crowd, but fans are just as likely to walk away from his matches confounded by his mercurial performances as they are thrilled by them. Even more aggravating, in Nadal's case, is that Kyrgios tends to care when he plays him, and the 6 feet 5 inches Aussie's penchant for blasting returns and bombing 120 mph. Second serves works well against Rafa's high-bouncing topspin. Before this week, Nadal led their head-to-head 3-2, but Kyrgios' unpredictable talents have always made him edgy. In short, a conflagration between Nadal and Kyrgios was probably inevitable, and it finally happened on Wednesday in Acapulco. As a show, it didn't disappoint. In the year's most entertaining contest so far, Kyrgios squeaked past Nadal 3-6, 7-6, 2, 7-6, 6. It was vintage Kyrgios all the way through. He began looking injured and possibly ill, and seemed on the verge of retiring. But at the start of the second set, he also seemed to sense some vulnerability, some anxiety, in Nadal, and decided to forget about whatever was bothering him and compete. The result was a shot-making exhibition. In the second set, Kyrgios saved 3 breakpoints at 4-4, and then saved 3 match points in the third set tiebreaker. One stage, seeing Rafa parked at the back of the court, he threw in an underhanded serve, a perfectly acceptable tactic, no different than throwing in a drop shot in the middle of a rally. At another point, he complained about Nadal taking too much time to get ready to return his serve. Afterward, Nadal gave Kyrgios a drive-by handshake and let his feelings about the Aussie be known. While telling reporters that he thinks Kyrgios is a good guy, who could be fighting for Grand Slams, Nadal also said he lacks respect for the crowd, his opponent, and towards himself. "He doesn't know anything about me," Kyrgios responded. "So I'm not going to listen at all. That's the way I play." The way he plays is very slow in between points. The rule in the book says he has to play to the speed of the server, but Rafa has his speed every time, so I'm not going to comment on him. Kyrgios has ignored advice and criticism from other legends of the game. Will this time be any different? On Thursday, he followed up his win over Rafa with one over Stan Wawrinka. But while the result was positive, his performance was uneven. He competed hard for 2 sets, and even stirred up boos from the crowd when he screamed in Wawrinka's direction after winning points. In the third set, though, Kyrgios went back into a funk. He called the trainer, he stretched his legs, he winced in pain, he tossed in serves, and went for all-out winners as soon as he could. Yet he still beat a 3-time Grand Slam champion who was desperate to win. The depth and pace of Kyrgios's shots were simply superior to Wawrinka's. Chances are, Kyrgios will continue to be his confounding, sometimes brilliant self from week to week. Maybe the best we can hope for is that he and Nadal will face off more often. For that to happen, Kyrgios would have to beat the players he's supposed to beat on a more consistent basis. We already know he can beat the players he's not supposed to beat. Kyrgios is now 6-4 against opponents ranked in the top 2. When he faces Nadal, Djokovic, or Federer, he's inspired by the challenge, he has something to prove, and, psychologically, there's no downside if he puts everything on the line and loses, because everyone loses to those guys. The question is whether he can summon that desire when he doesn't have anything to prove, when there's no particular glory in victory, and when there is a downside to putting it all on the line and losing. Kyrgios summed it up himself the last time he beat Nadal, at Cincinnati in 2017. "It's easy to get up for these matches," he said. "Little kid playing on the center court of Cincinnati against Nadal, that's the way, you know, the best has to come out. The problem for me is trying to bring it on an everyday basis, say, center court of Lyon, with, like, 15 people against Nicholas Kicker earlier this year, I lost. Tonight I'm playing Rafa and I win. Maybe the opportunity to face Rafa more often will offer Kyrgios some inspiration. Failing that, we could have them go on a one-on-one, winner-take-all exhibition tour, together. You'd watch, wouldn't you?" ATP, WTA Acapulco. Alexander Zverev headlines the Abierto Mexicano Telcel. Watch live coverage on Tennis Channel Plus beginning Monday, 2/25 at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. ATP Dubai. Watch Roger Federer, live from the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships starting Monday, 2/25 at 5 a.m. Eastern Time. ATP Sao Paulo. Tennis Channel Plus features live coverage of the Brazil Open beginning Monday, 2/25 at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time.